Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 9 p.m. English news edition brought to you live from RTD channel. And tonight, as headlines, we have observers are stepping up at their meetings as the election approaches. A farewell reception for the last chance agreement between Washington and Tehran and calls for a lasting peace. Those were the top stories and welcome back in our newsroom. We begin tonight news with two rallies between the CDU and UMP. At the beginning, the CDU party held its final major rally in Balbala, bringing together party activists and supporters in a lively and festive atmosphere. Party leaders call for massive citizen turnout, emphasizing the importance of full participation in the April 10 election.
هذا لقوم الدالي هي روالي دابا هي ويا عاقلة هي ويا عاقلة هذا لقوم الدالي هي روالي دابا هي ويا عاقلة هي ويا عاقلة
The Unified Democratic Center Party has increased its popular rally by organizing a series of meetings with the supporters, activists, and local communities in Obuch region. These direct encounters, held in a friendly atmosphere, allowed party leaders to reinforce ties with their base, listen to citizens' concern, and emphasize the importance of the upcoming elections. Speakers stressed the value of active civic participation, urging everyone to fulfill their civic duties. Local party leaders reaffirmed their commitment to listening to citizens and representing their aspiration. And for his side, the candidate of for the Union for the presidential majority UNP, Mr. Ismail Omar Gille, turned Al Hajj Hassan Guled Stadium Stadium into a sea of enthusiasm. For his grand final, the outgoing president drew a massive crowd, marking the culmination of a campaign built on unity and progress. The scene will remain etched in the history of this campaign. Under the late afternoon sky, the stadium stands were packed long before the candidates' arrival, decked out in the vibrant colors of The UMP between patriotic songs, chants of support, and electric atmosphere energized by cultural troops of thousands of supporters send a clear message to demonstrate the overwhelming backing enjoyed by the outgoing president ahead of the decisive April 10 presidential elections vote.
geelana dado waa dire walkii la siiyey yaqaan dowgay lahay doorba doorxiga sohodaba mare geesigu darkuu xidhay baa durduuray guulo dahabiyo daafaha dunida ka soo hooya dirac nabad lagu dagu darmada u dhigo oo ku diirsane derajaan afrika duubka uu sina dayaca jabuuti laga daawada doorba doorxiga sohodaba mare geesigu darkuu xidhay baa durduuray guulo dahabiyo daafaha dunida ka soo hooya dirac nabad lagu dagu darmada u dhigo oo ku diirsane derajaan afrika duubka uu sina dontii horumarkan dushad saaranahay geelana dado waa dira walkii la siiyey yaqaan dowgay lahay danta qara siduu aqoon durugsaniyo siyaasadda weyn nagu daadasho waxaa doonibu doonayaa shacbigu ilaaliyo malaal buu diidayaa shacbigu way ku daalayaan nama duri karan isku duubniday ka dilaacayan run sheeg daacad iyo xaqaad daahirshow danta qara siduu aqoon durugsaniyo siyaasadda weyn nagu daadasho waxaa doonibu doonayaa shacbigu ilaaliyo malaal buu diidayaa shacbigu way ku daalayaan nama duri karan isku duubniday ka dilaacayan dontii horumarkan dushad saaranahay geelana dado waa dira walkii la siiyey yaqaan dowgay lahay diblomaasida qaran daadashe dontii horumarkan dushad saaranahay geelana dado waa dira walkii la siiyey yaqaan dowgay lahay
The president of the Republic and also a candidate of the Union for the presidential majority, Mr. Ismail Omar Agile, received this morning, Wednesday, at the Presidential Palace, the heads of international observer missions for the presidential election scheduled for April 10, 2026. The head of state first met with the African Union observation mission led by the former Prime Minister of Rwanda, Bernard Makuza. These observers are tasked with closely monitoring all stages of the electoral process, from logistical preparations to the voting operations, including engagement with political and institutional stakeholders. Their mission, let's recall, is to ensure independent, impartial, and objective oversight, thereby strengthening the transparency and credibility of the electoral process. And following the AU mission, the president of the Republic and also candidate of the UNP party also met IGAD observers, reinforcing Djibouti's commitment to transparent elections. The President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, received today at the Presidential Palace a delegation of international observers from the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, known as IGAD, led by Dr. Mulatu Teshome, former President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. This meeting forms a part of the ongoing follow-up of the electoral process in the country. During the discussion, several key issues addressed, including the alignment of Djibouti's elections with international standards, the status of voter registration, procedures for candidate verification, and equitable access to state media. The President also welcomed OIC observers, underscoring Djibouti's commitment to free and transparent elections. The President of the Republic he received a high-level delegation of international observers from the Organization of Islamic Cooperation led by Shakir Mahmoud. During their discussion, observers welcomed the measures taken by Djiboutian authorities to ensure free elections across the country. They particularly praised the logistical security and organizational arrangements designed to guarantee a smooth electoral process. And as part of its tour to engage key actors in the electoral process, the African Union Presidential Elections Observation Mission met this morning with the Unified Democratic Center Party candidate, Mr. Mohamed Farah Samatar, to discuss the progress of the presidential campaigns and the voting conditions. The head of the mission explained the role of the observers and the nature of their field work, emphasizing the delegation commitment to ensuring transparency in the presidential elections on next Friday. He also outlined the monitoring methods applied at both regional and international levels, expressing their mission intention to meet all relevant parties and closely follow their activities throughout the voting period. The Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed received a high-level delegation of the African Union Election Observation Mission led by former Rwandan Prime Minister Bernard Makuza, tasked with monitoring the electoral process in Djibouti. This meeting is part of a series of consultation the mission is conducting with the key national institutions. It reflects Djibouti's ongoing commitment to institutional dialogue, democratic transparency, and adherence to African election monitoring mechanism. Discussion reiterated the importance of holding peaceful and fair elections that uphold the principle of stability, accountability, and respect for institutions. The mission also emphasized the systematic, practical, and non-interfering nature of its work conducted in accordance with African Union instruments and the national constitutional framework. The Speaker of the Parliament meets also the African Union Election Observation Mission. The President of the National Assembly, Dileita Mohamed Dileita, received a delegation of the African Union Election Observation Mission led by the head of the mission and former Prime Minister of Rwanda. Also present at the meeting were Djibouti's ambassador to the African Union, Abdi Mahmoud Heibe, Director of Multilateral Relations, Ambassador Guelleh Idriss Omar, and the Secretary General of the National Assembly, Ambassador Ismail Gulala. This meeting is part of the field activities of election observation missions, a key mechanism for strengthening democracy. Discussion focused on the organizational framework of the election, as well as a logistical and operational arrangement for deploying observers across the whole country. In addition to technical aspects, the meeting highlighted the pivotal role of a national institution in enhancing the credibility of the presidential elections. And as a representative institution and a cornerstone of the democratic system, the National Assembly is a key actor in building a stable and predictable institutional environment. And on this occasion, the Speaker of the National Assembly did not fail to praise the African Union's continued commitment to promoting democracy process across the country, particularly regarding the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and governance with the guides, which guides the work of election observation. The Minister of the Interior, Saeed Nuh Hassan, received a high-level delegation of the African Union Election Observation Mission, led by former Rwandan Prime Minister, tasked with the monitoring the electoral process in Djibouti. And this meeting is part of a series of consultation the mission is conducting with the key national institution. It reflects Djibouti's ongoing commitment to institutional dialogue, democratic transparency, and adherence to African election monitoring mechanism. The Minister of the Interior received a high-level delegation from the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, known as IGAD, led by Dr. Mulatu Teshome, former President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. The meeting is part of a regional effort to promote peace, stability, and cooperation among IGAD member states. Discussion focused on issues of common interests, as well as the role of observation mission in supporting democratic and institutional process across the whole region. And now, this press release, Djibouti welcomes United States-Iran ceasefire. The Republic of Djibouti welcomes the two-week ceasefire between the United States and Iran, hoping it leads to lasting peace and stability in the Middle East. The country did not fail to praise Pakistan's role in hosting neutral talks in Islamabad and calls on the international community to support peaceful negotiation to protect the civilians, secure trade routes, and restore regional stability. Djibouti stressed that dialogue is the only way to prevent further tensions and ensure the safety of maritime traffic in the Horn of Africa. And now the CENI launches supervisory tour ahead of presidential elections. And as part of preparation for the presidential election scheduled for April 10, 2026, the Independent National Electoral Commission has launched a supervisory tour at the prefecture headquarters. The initiative aims to ensure the smooth running of the electoral process and assess the readiness of local authorities responsible for organizing the vote. The first stage of the tour took place at the prefecture with a working meeting held between the prefect of Djibouti City, Abdi Hassan, and the chairperson of CENI, Bahnan Ali Maidan. The meeting addressed various organizational aspects of the election, including the distribution of electoral materials, training of polling station staff, and securing polling centers. The chairperson of the National Media Commission, Ali Mohamed Dimbio, received a high-level delegation from the European Center for Electoral Support, composed of 9 African election commissioners, as part of the supervision of the presidential elections scheduled for April 10. The meeting is part of an ongoing effort to exchange expertise and strengthen capacities in managing and organizing media operations during the electoral period. And on this occasion, the chairperson held a press conference detailing the Commission's responsibilities, particularly its role in overseeing communications before, during, and after the election period.
Allow me to briefly introduce the mission. Association of African Election Authorities, or it is known as AAEA, is a continental platform that brings together electoral management bodies from across Africa. Its objective is to promote professionalism, cooperation, and the exchange of experience in the organization of elections. Through this platform, EMBs are able to learn from one another, share good practices, and strengthen their capacity to organize credible, free, fair, credible, inclusive, and transparent elections. One of the key tools of the AEA is the organization of peer learning missions. These missions are not observation missions. They are designed as opportunities for dialogue and exchange between peers, allowing electoral institutions to share experiences, discuss challenges, and learn from different national contexts.
Taking the floor, the chairperson of the National Media Commission, Ali Mohammed Dimbio, outlined the details of broadcast time and location on radio and television as well, emphasizing that such allocations are governed by strict regulations to ensure equal treatment of all candidates in line with democratic principles. He also noted that the National Media Commission works in close cooperation with the public media outlets, particularly the Djibouti Radio and Television Authority and the national newspaper known as La Nation. Cooperation agreements are signed to guarantee balanced, transparent, and legally compliant media coverage. Mr. Dimbio concluded by reaffirming the Commission's commitment to upholding fairness, pluralism, and transparency, which he described as essential element for consolidating democracy in the country. And as part of the preparation for the presidential election scheduled for April 10, 2026, the Al Sabih region prefecture launched a series of training sessions for polling stations heads. These sessions were organized under the direction of the regional prefecture Abdul Malik, with the regional prefect Abdul Malik Mohammed Banoita, with the aims of ensuring that the electoral process is conducted under optimal conditions. The training took place at Al Sabih School with the participation of the prefect Abdul Malik Mohammed Banoita, deputy prefect Saida Idris, as well as the deputy prefect of Ali Adde and Hol Hol. The initiative was intended to reinforce the readiness of polling station heads and enable them to manage the electoral process efficiently and transparently in accordance with the established standards. In a related development, the prefect did not fail to chair the security meeting with senior commanders of the regional defense and security forces as well to discuss arrangement for securing the elections process. Djibouti welcomes back a third police unit from Central African Republic peacekeeping mission. And after a year of distinguished service in the Central African Republic as part of peacekeeping operations, the third contingent of the National Gendarmerie Police Unit returned home to Djibouti. The officers are proudly wearing their uniforms and blue berets received a warm welcome led by Colonel Zakaria Hassanadan, Chief of Staff of the National Gendarmerie, accompanied by senior officers. They return with a sense of pride and honor for their dedicated efforts. The mission culminated with all unit members being awarded the United Nations Medal in recognition of their professional commitment, high competence and active contribution of international peace and security as well. In his address, Colonel Zakaria Hassanadan did not fail to praise the courage and discipline of the officer, emphasizing that their dedication reflects the strengths of Djibouti's security institutions and highlights the country's leading role in peacekeeping operation in the Horn of Africa. And he also expressed his deep appreciation to the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for his continuous support, which was decisive to the mission's success. And following the reception at the international airport of Mbuli, the officers were transported to Sheikh Musa Training Center to complete the necessary administrative and organizational procedures. Turning now to the international scene, United States and Iran agreed on 2-week truce. Tension between the United States and Iran have eased after President Donald Trump announced a 2-week truce, calling Iran's proposals a solid basis for negotiation. Let's recall that the ceasefire mediated by Pakistan suspended airstrikes while talks continue and has been welcomed internationally as a step toward lasting peace. That's it for tonight news. And right after, you will be following the special news edition entirely dedicated for the 2026 presidential elections campaign. Thanks for joining us and stay tuned for more program on RTD channel.